All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Today I am here with the lovely Abbie from Uproot Brushes. And in
Hi.
today's project, we are going to be using Abbie's thick texture overlay brushes to create a lettering cookie project.
Yeah.
Um, did I get all that?
Yeah,
Did I get
you
everything?
did.
Okay. Oh, no, I didn't because there's freebies that you need to
Oh,
download.
yeah, yeah.
There's links in the description for the brush set if you want to check that out. And then Abbie has also kindly put together a freebie brush set that we'll be using with the texture brushes for today, along with the color palette. And then there's also a link to download the font that we'll be using as the base for our letters. So that's all in the video description, and I sent it out in my emails as well. And that should get everybody set and sorted to jump into the project. So
Cool.
let us know. I see some chats trickling in telling us where you're from. Let us know if you're following along live with the project as well. And then feel free to pop in questions as you have them, and we will answer them as we go and then round up at the end to make sure that we got everything.
Cool.
All right,
Hey,
shall we
everyone.
get started?
Yes. Okay. So I decided a fun project to do with this thick texture set would be to make some cookies. But first, I'm going to show you how the thick texture brushes work so that you can use them in the future, etc. Um, So the very top brush is just a little label to remind you how to use them. And you always use white. The white, it can be slightly off-white, but it really helps if it's fully white, which is all the F's in the hex code. That's white. Um, So grab your white and then I'm going to show you. Let's use the marshmallow one. So I'm going to make my background a different color just so that you can see how the brushes work. So on a layer right at the top or above whatever you're trying to put the texture on, you grab one of the brushes. This one is the marshmallow one, and I'm going to pick the size notch one from the bottom. It's important to match the sizes when you're using these brushes so that the two textures interact perfectly and create that really nice 3D look. So this is what it looks like when you swoosh across the whole canvas with using white. It'll come out gray, but we want to set that layer to overlay. And it doesn't look like much now, but when you put the linear burn layer also set to that underneath, and you set that to linear burn, it suddenly, wait, this is a bit bright, you can't see now, see, it suddenly makes the texture really pop out. So this is without linear burn, and this is without overlay, and this is with. So it takes it from being just a texture brush to being like a really three-dimensional texture that can make your work look super dimensional as opposed to just have a all over texture on. Okay.
Yeah, this really looks like photo real, and so it's
Yeah.
amazing that it just is able to pop off the screen to that level.
The reason is because the overlay blend mode, what it does is it pulls, it uses the tones of the layer that you're using for an overlay. So let's show you again the overlay. If I set this to normal, you can see the tones where it's super dark is going to darken the color, but not add black. It's actually going to saturate the color. And then where there's a lighter color, it's going to desaturate. So you end up with a really deep tonal range in the texture that you're creating.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to make some bickies here. And they're going to be in the shape of a word. So the font that I'm going to use is called Pleasantly Plump, And I found it on, I think it was Da Font.
Yeah.
And it's completely free, and it's free for commercial use, so you don't have to hide your creations. You can, sell them and whatever if you use that font. So
Yeah.
I need a 4-letter word that has something to do with food. Addie came up with milk
Ooh.
last time, so maybe I'll do milk again, because all
Yes,
the
but throw
4-letter words that I think of are rude.
type your suggestions in chat if you have any ideas for us.
Let's try milk. Okay. So when you're using the text input in Procreate, it is so annoying to me that you have to highlight the word before you can edit the text. So what I do is I touch the paintbrush and then I touch the word again, and then you can edit it without highlighting it. So you can go and change to a different font.
Okay, that's such...
Change the kerning, etc., without highlighting every single thing.
Okay, can you walk through the steps again? Because I feel like that's such a useful hack. The Procreate text tool is imperfect, and this is maybe a way to make it a little more easy to use.
I'm looking for pleasantly. There it is. Okay. So let's say, for example, I've typed this out and I want to change the kerning, or I want to change the size. Usually you'd be in there and you'd have to double tap it and highlight it and fiddle and fart. But what I do is I just tap the paintbrush so that it exits the editing tool, and I just go and tap the word again and it comes back. And now I can change kerning, change size, change
that's awesome.
the distance between them, etc., and I find it so much easier to do than going in and highlighting every single one. Okay, now I want this pretty big.
Okay, I'm trying to get the volume level between us. So let me know, everybody in chat, if this is a little bit better.
Am I too quiet? Because I can make my microphone come down towards me a bit.
Perhaps. I just adjusted the volume manually. And so maybe that made some difference, but if it's still a little quiet, if you guys could let me know in chat. And then we might have you move the mic.
Stand up.
Okay. Well, while you do that, I want to show this comment because I thought this was amazing. It's from Goat Lady Get Your Goat. She says in here, until the goats decide I absolutely need to come and get them fed. Hopefully they can be patient, fingers crossed. I hope they can be patient too. If not, this is recorded, so you can come back and catch up, or watch it on 2x speed until you catch up to the live point.
Is the volume better?
Let's see. Can you hear you both? But Abbie is not as loud, although that might have come through still a little soft. Okay, I am going to edit mic settings, and I'm bumping you up to 185. We'll see if that's a bit better. If not, I can make myself quieter as well.
Okay, so we've got our word set out, and we don't want to do anything to the text because we want to keep it so we can use it later as a reference. So we can hide it, tap select on the word layer. Keep saying open layers because I've hidden it and it's panicking. Just ignore that. It's nothing to fret about. And we're going to grab this brown in the color palette. I've made you a color palette so that all the colors are there that you're going to be using and it's easy to find. And then tap the layer that you want your letters in and fill it with that brown. Okay, and now we want that to look like a biscuit. So make a couple of layers above and clip them to that layer. And the easiest way to make more clipping layers is to clip one, then go to the original layer and just add layers, and they will all clip in between. So I made you guys a biscuit texture brush in the freebies, and it works exactly the same as the thick texture brushes. You start with an overlay brush, so you pick white and you fill the layer with the overlay, and you can set
So
that to overlay.
I have to ask if you could share how the sausage gets made. What was the source image for the biscuit brush?
I went on to Unsplash and I found some rolled out gingerbread image, and I just used that to make it because I was
Okay.
not going to be making biscuits specifically for this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, I always say biscuits. I'm sorry. That's the South African and Australian way to say cookies. I know you guys say biscuits for scones, but you're wrong. So that's bad luck for you.
And I think we only because we have scones too, but scones
Yeah.
in my mind are sweet, and then biscuits are more savory.
If you make scones, they're never sweet. You put the sweet stuff on them. You put the jam and the cream on them. Do you have
But
jam
what do
and
you
cream on your
call?
scones?
Oh,
Oh, that would
um,
be like a damper. Here, a damper is like a blob of doughy, but like a scone dough thing that you cook in a fire, and then you just eat it with meat and stuff. It's
oh,
like hobo food.
oh, okay, okay.
Okay. Um, okay, then we're gonna grab the linear burn one of the same texture brush of the biscuit brush and make sure it's on the same size. So the overlay one was on second to smallest, linear burn one second to smallest, and we're gonna put it below the overlay layer in the clippings and swoosh it over and then set that to linear burn. So now the biscuit is super 3D. You can see these little holes look really holy. Now we're going to make those biscuits look round. And the easiest way to make things look round is using the clipping masks. You can fill the second one down with white and fill the top one with this gray that's here on the black, white, gray. If you've ever downloaded a color palette from me, you'll notice that I always, on the extreme right side, add black, white, gray because I use them in everything. And it's really nice to know that you have pure black and you have pure white, and then you have a mid-tone gray, which is very helpful. So grab the gray as well and fill that layer. So now it looks like you have a gray word, but what we want to do is select the original word and then highlight these two like that. So the original word's not highlighted, but it's selected, and then the two, the gray and the white, are blue. And then we're going to just drag them out. So now we can't see anything that we've attached in those clippings, but what we're going to do is use them to make the biscuit look three-dimensional. So the first step is, yep.
A note for anybody who's caught other ones of our lives. If you watched our Whip Stitch Craft Kit live where we did the applique letters, this is a similar technique to what we'll do there as well, or what we did there.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we go to the white one and use the transform tool, and I don't want the snapping on because I want to be able to wiggle it around without it trying to jump to one place. Oh, I just spat on a screen. Okay, then we're going to drag it down about that much. And then we're going to use the gray one to cut out the outside, because we know that the gray one is exactly the outside of the letters. So we're going to select the gray one and tap clear from the white one. So now you can see the white one is just that little fingernail shape around each of the biscuit letters. The reason we're doing it like this is because we are going to Gaussian blur the gray and the white, and if the white still had white all the way around those letters, the white would encroach from all sides. But what we want is we just want that little strip of white to isolate itself to that edge so it looks like a highlight on the edge of the biscuit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the grey one, set that to linear burn, and then we're going to do Gaussian. So come in close so you can see how much Gaussian you're doing. And we're going to Gaussian about 8. And then we're going to move it up to the top left a little bit. And the more you move it up to the top left, the fatter your biscuit is going to look. So can you see if I move it up there, my biscuit looks super fat. If I move it only a little bit, the biscuit looks slimmer. Okay, and then with the white one, we're going to leave it where it is, and we're going to just Gaussian blur it until it starts to look like a nice little highlight on the edge of the biscuit. See, and then you can set it to overlay or add. Actually, add works really well, but then you have to drop the opacity to, I don't know, 40-ish%.
Oh,
and there we go.
that's
The
perfect.
biscuits look like they're jumping out.
Yeah.
And now we want the biscuit to look like it's actually sitting on the surface and not just wafting in space. So I'm going to tap select on the word and go to the layer below the biscuits and select this gray again and tap fill. And then when you're making a drop shadow, I've discovered this cool hack to make it look like the shadow is diffused slightly further away from the object. I use perspective blur and select directional. And we know that the light is coming from that top left corner. So we're going to move the little directional disc up to there. And then drag the pencil to make the shadow. Can you see there's the gray making the shadow on either side? It's a bit hard to see. Let me set it to linear burn so you can see.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and we don't want it to be too big, otherwise it looks like the sun is setting low. And then drag it so that that top left rim of shadow disappears behind the biscuit. Like that. And then just to diffuse it a little bit, just pop on a tiny bit of Gaussian. Maybe a bit more. Cool.
That looks so good. So this is an amazing shadow hack. I feel like even if you aren't doing a specific drop shadow, but you kind of want to learn how the light might look at different angles, that can be a fun way to experiment with that too. But for creating that nice diffused shadow, it's amazing.
Okay, and then for the icing. So let's put our biscuit all in one group so that we can turn it on and off and it's not in the way. Now we want to put the icing on top. So we're going to select that original word that we made. I don't know why it always does that, panic. And I'm going to just do it in, let's do it in blue so that it's different from the background. And tap fill. Now we don't want the icing to go all the way to the edge of the biscuits. So Addie actually came up with this genius idea. We're going to use liquefy. And we're going to use the pinch option on liquefy. And then we can make it a bit smaller. The pressure slider, I usually leave it on a sort of halfway, because if it's all the way on the one side, you only touch a tiny bit and it distorts hugely. But if you drop the pressure input, it does it a bit slower and you have a tiny bit more control. Okay. So So let's just shrink the icing in from the edge a little bit. Oh, sorry, that's another word that's not universal. I have to say frosting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which word did you use?
Icing.
Oh,
Do you say icing?
I think icing and frosting are different things.
Oh, are they?
In American
What is
English.
icing and what's frosting?
Icing is usually just like sugar and water, at least in my understanding of it. If you guys are in the comments, you could absolutely correct me, but my understanding is that it's more of like a glaze.
Like on a donut.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, but also this is maybe just a me thing.
Okay,
Because I do say both.
Yeah. I don't
And
know.
then frosting is
I
more
always
like
say icing.
your buttercream, your cream cheese frosting. Yeah. But you
Okay,
guys, you say
and
icing
then-
for everything?
Yeah, we do. Icing for everything. Icing. Yeah. Well, nobody says frosting. I don't know. Okay, now we want the edges of that icing / frosting to look a little bit squidgy. So drop the size of the liquefy. And I said liquefy tool, and pick push, and then add a bit of distortion. And we're just going to go to the edge and give it a little bit of a squidging. Like this.
This is really clever that you are able to do this so effectively with just the one push tool. I think is really neat.
I really like liquefy. It's one of my favorite things that they added to Procreate. Now if they could just add a way to make seamless patterns, I would be thrilled.
All right, so we have some weighing in here in the chat. You ice a cake with frosting. Both frosting is thicker and frosting. Oh, maybe icing is thinner, frosting is thicker. Knitting Mommy says icing is usually a little thinner than frosting, but thicker than a glaze. That's how I use them. But
Can you
am not a
frost
pastry
a cake
chef.
with icing or ice a cake with frosting?
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly.
Clearly up for debate.
Okay, so our icing is smaller than the biscuit, wiggly around the edge, looking good. Now we can add that thick texture that we actually came here to talk about. So we're going to make a clipping mask, and let's make a whole bunch of clipping masks, and exactly like the biscuit, on the bottom two we're going to add the texture. So grab white and thick texture brushes. I'm going to use buttercream. There we go. And then on the layer, let's set that to overlay. On the next layer down, we're going to grab the linear burn version. Let me show you what happens if you make the two brushes different sizes. So this one, the matching size would be on the second notch up. But if you make it smaller, you can see it doesn't line up properly, and the top one is in a different place. So it's, if you put it together, then they really
Oh yeah, you
pop
can
out.
tell the immediate difference in the amount of dimension.
Yeah. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did with the biscuit, making the frosting icing three-dimensional. So the top layer, we're going to pick the gray and fill the layer. The second layer down, we're going to pick the white and fill that layer. Then we're going to our frosting base layer. And Addie showed me this cool trick. If you hold down on the layer with two fingers like this, then it selects the contents of that layer.
Yeah.
And then we
press
highlight
and
these
hold
two.
with two fingers.
Like this.
Because if you
And
tap, it'll take you to opacity adjustments.
yes, so hold it down and then scooch those off. So we've got the white layer and the gray layer with the holes. And the next step, we're going to take the white layer and we're going to move it down a teeny bit. So we've got that little fingernail of white around the edge. And use the gray layer, select, and then erase clear from the white layer. Next, we're going to go back to the gray layer and set it to linear burn and Gaussian blur it. There we go. And then we're going to move it up and to the left a bit. And go back to the white layer and Gaussian to make that bright edge. Then we can set that to add and drop the opacity drastically so that it isn't too bright. And now to actually stick the frosting to the biscuit, you need a little bit of a shadow. Otherwise it doesn't look like the two are together.
Even this last step, though, of making the frosting like more dimensional, it's made all the difference.
Yeah.
It's like night and day.
Okay, so we're going to select the frosting layer and on a layer below it, but above the cookies, select, get gray again and fill that. And then set that to linear burn and Gaussian it just a little bit. And then you can scooch that down a couple of taps. And then looks like it's glued.
Can you hide and then show the layer just so we can see the impact that has now?
Oh, yes. It's not huge, but it definitely makes them look like they're joined.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then can group that. Then for the background, I thought we could actually just use one of the thick texture brushes as just a plain thing, as not actually using it to create a texture on the layer below, but just leave it as blend mode normal. And I really like this one called, where is it? Putty board, is that it? No. My brain today is not with me. Okay, we'll try that. I picked the overlay one and I'm just filling the layer, and now it looks like it's sitting on top of like a nice piece of grey textured stuff. Artisanal.
Yes. I think like food bloggers and stuff make backgrounds and special backdrops so that they have like a variety of interesting food photograph backdrops. And so I feel like this is like spot on to what a food blogger would do.
Exactly. Okay, and then I made you guys, as part of the freebies, some sprinkle brushes. And I made you some frosting, white frosting brush, if you'd like to use that. So with the frosting brush, I know it just looks like it's an opaque, weird, blobby thing, but when you pick white and you draw with it, you'll see it comes out as frosting. So on a layer above everything, you can add some frosting if you want. Or you can just leave it if you don't want to. And I also gave you some sprinkles brushes. So the sprinkles, you just have to pick the color and stamp it. But they're always orientated in the direction of the screen. So it's a good idea to move your canvas a bit so that they're not all just in the same orientation. And the colors that I gave you, these ones at the top, are the perfect ones for making sprinkles. I studied sprinkle color dynamics, and these are the colors.
I love that. We have, let's see, making sure I'm not missing questions. I have a couple questions starred that I will circle back to, but Paula says, looks so yummy. Pink Tree Portfolio says, it's magic. It really is. Looks delicious.
And whoops. And then with the sprinkles, just keep going until you think they're enough mixture of colors. And then I did make a single sprinkle to kind of add afterwards where you think there are gaps. It's a little bit laborious, but it is better than drawing them individually. And green. Oh, that one doesn't have any green ones. I always seem to do the last sprinkles in white, and I use the one at a time sprinkle. I don't know why, it just seems to work well.
This is a great suggestion from Lee to put a few sprinkles on the table as well.
Ah, that is a good idea. Because you always miss the biscuit when you're adding sprinkles. Hey.
Yeah. It's like a 60-40 split, I think.
Exactly. And when you're baking
Leanne
with your
also,
children, they eat them. Yeah.
Leanne had also emailed me and suggested biscuit crumbs, which I loved. I know we discussed pre-stream. Yeah.
Okay, and now, like everything, we want the sprinkles and the frosting to stick to the biscuit. So select the sprinkles, grab the gray, and fill the layer. Linear burn, and we're going to Gaussian that a tiny bit. There we go. The difference isn't huge, but it is definitely worth doing that step.
Yeah.
And similarly for the frosting, icing, decoration, and linear burn. The reason I'm setting the grey layer to linear burn before I Gaussian blur it is so that I can actually see it, because the grey is so mid-toned that when you Gaussian blur it, it isn't very visible, but you want to actually be able to see it as you do it so that you know how much to blur.
I bet that saves time too, because then you're not going back and forth and adjusting the blur and undoing and readjusting the blur after you see.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, and there was one more thing I wanted to show you how to do. So let's group these. If you want to make your biscuit look like it's sort of rainbow mixed icing, I gave you this normal monoline brush, which I use all the time, so that we could make a rainbowy texture and put it on the biscuit. So let's turn all these off, make the background white again, and then on a layer above everything, grab the colors in rainbow order, and I've laid them out in the color palette in rainbow order, and make stripes using the monoline brush. Don't panic too hard about whether the stripe is perfect, because it is entirely irrelevant. Okay, now we've got this layer with these stripes on, and we're going to duplicate it and go to your snapping and turn on magnetics and snapping and make them go all the way to maximum so that it's super easy. And then select freeform, and then we're going to make this go halfway across like that and merge it down. And then we want to go to liquefy and be on push and make this size medium-ish. And then we're just gonna swoosh it around a bit. If you want to swoosh once and have a lot of action, then make momentum go up, because then you just swoosh once and it keeps swooshing like it's got, I don't know, momentum or something.
Yeah. Like it is really liquid.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got our sort of oil slick color combo, and we're going to Gaussian blur it a little bit. And then we can actually, let's turn all of these back on. We can go and put it into our clipping mask layer with our frosting. So drag it down and pop it there where the frosting is. And now your frosting is rainbow colored.
It's
And if you
instantly amazing.
If you want the rainbow to be sort of more concentrated, you can resize the, let's turn snapping and what's it off. You can resize it to get the rainbow in the spot where you want it. That looks good. There you go.
That's incredible.
Oh, last,
my gosh.
lucky last. To make everything look like it's all in one place, it's very helpful to add a light effect across the whole thing. So I've added these two colors at the bottom of the color palette I've provided. So pick the peachy colored one and a soft brush from the Procreate native brushes, and make a bit of a blob in the one corner, and then pick the blue and make a little bit of a circle around it like that, and Gaussian that all the way to maximum, and then set that to overlay and drop the opacity, and it makes the whole thing come together like it's definitely all in one place.
It's amazing. It really
Cool.
is like the perfect touch. And also, I love that those are like your go-to pink and blue shades.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and also if you want to mess around a little bit with your sprinkles to make them not all look so uniform, make a clipping mask above your sprinkle layer and set it to overlay. And then grab either that pink or white or another color and one of those soft blurry brushes like the airbrush, and just add a little bit of highlight to a couple of places just to make it look not all so uniform.
Incredible. All right. Is it the last?
Yes, that's the last.
Okay.
Last. I'm done.
Okay. Well, everybody in chat has been saying really amazing things about you. So I've been highlighting them, but I know that you were looking at your iPad. So I wanted to call out Unicorn Cookies is the perfect name.
Yeah, they
and
do
I'm
look
probably
like
going to
unicorn.
retitle the video because I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome, fantastic. I totally agree. I love this project. It's really fun to see these brushes in use in a really unique way. And I just like haven't ever seen a project like this before, so it's always exciting. I did star some questions. Angela says, I didn't understand the scooching after you clear the gray from the white
can-
layer. Do you think you could run through those steps
I'll show
again?
you again. Okay. So let's turn that off. And we'll pretend those don't exist. And we'll clipping mask these. So I'm going to be making this linear burn layer and this add layer again to show you. So you grab the gray and put it in the top layer, and you grab the white and you put it in the second layer. And I'm doing that by tapping the layer, waiting for the pop-up to come, and then tapping fill layer. I know people do drag and drop, but I find fill layer gets to every single pixel in the whole layer. If you drag and drop, if there are pixels there, it will go around them and you won't officially fill the layer. This way it's like dumping concrete. It's in.
Yeah, I think there's advantage too to staying in the layers menu, right?
Yeah, it's faster. For me it's faster. Okay,
Yeah.
and so now I want to remove the icing template shape, which is this blue one here, from gray and white at the same time. I can select and then clear, but that would be two motions. So what I'm rather going to do is select on the blue template layer and then go up to the white layer and the gray layer and highlight them both, and then go to the transform arrow. And now I've got hold of the bit that I want to remove, and I'm going to just drag it away. So I'm left with holes where the template shape was selected. Is that clearer?
Yeah, let us know, Sheila, if that, or what, oh shoot, Angela, sorry. Let us know, Angela, if that helps answer it. If not, we can run through again. Let me go back to my start here.
Also, if you want to see, during my adventures in making this little tutorial, I made a gingerbread man, and I made all sorts of other things. So you don't have to just make words. You can like make stuff. Like, look how cute he is.
It's adorable. That kind of leads in. If I could, I wanted to show how you can add like a piping line to the outside, like Abbie had on the gingerbread man, using, oh shoot, I was all prepped to link it in chat and then I forgot. So this is going to use Abbie's brush set that she recently released with Shout Bam. And they are like 3D lettering brushes. So I'm trying to do too many things at once. I've just linked it in chat if you don't know what I'm talking about. And they are insane, instantly 3D lettering brushes primarily. But I was playing around and I found that they worked really well for frosting. So really quickly, this is just like the pipe brush with shadow. But you can see I've just done one single stroke and it's instantly a 3D tube. And so couple things to note. I'm not the person to explain these because I've barely used them, but the colors use dual color setup. And so the secondary color, which is on the right hand side, is the color that the brush will be, and then the black serves as the shadow. So you'll want to set up so that your pink is the secondary, and then make sure you tap black on back on the black before you start using it, so that the black is your primary color. Did I get that? Did I get that right?
Nailed it.
Okay, and then I just have the size set pretty low, and I can do a squiggly outline. I'm underneath my sprinkles because that made sense to me. And I tried to not make it too perfect because my my piping skills in real life are far from perfect. It's always a mess. And the nice thing about this brush is that if you do draw the line in a continuous single stroke without lifting up your pencil, when you connect the two, the icing kind of like melts back together. So that's another fun way to add a pop of realism.
Yeah, that's really cool. Are there any more
So
questions? Does anybody want to go over any
there
territory that was too quick?
we had a good question from Leanne. Is it possible to show us what textures are in that set?
Sure,
And while you
definitely.
do that, Abbie, I'm going to pull up the product page quick to show that on screen as well. Maybe not so quick.
How do I share?
Okay.
Okay. What I did was I made a whole lot of textures using spackle and boards, and then I scanned them and changed them so that they would work as brushes, and it was really messy, but it was super fun to do. So
Yeah.
these are the textures. I'm just going to show you the overlay layer as gray, and you can kind of, oh, hang on, I'll do linear burn as well underneath. So this one is called troweled. This one is called corkboard. This one is called marshmallow. This one is called rough putty. This one is called meringue. This one is buttercream. I like this one a lot. It looks delicious.
It does.
This one is called butter knife. This is mud squiggle.
That's fun.
This is ripple cork. The set actually comes with like a printable reference sheet, so that if you don't feel like testing the brush before you use it, you've got a reference sheet to look at.
Yeah, that's super handy.
This one is called scraped spackle. This one is called PB&J. This one is putty rub. This one is spackle smear. Palette knife. Impasto. Putty board. Striped. This is actually from outside the car repair shop that I took my car to. Their wall had this weird texture, and I thought that is cool.
Oh, I love that. I love when it's things from real life.
Yeah. This is pretty wrecked. These are sort of for getting super gross patinas on things. If you want to make something, let's say, that looks rusty, or it looks like paint is peeling off, or something like that. This is a bit flaky. This is parched. This is super cracked. This is acrylic pour. Choppy gesso. Thick smear. This one is patina. I actually quite like this one. This is like a steel sheet that's gotten messed up. And the last one is called pretty messed up.
And so, um, this is just one way to use them. I have used
Yes.
these texture brushes as just an overlay over my painting. And let me see if I can share properly. Share
Oh,
screen.
you did that genius hack where you moved the painting and the texture so that it moved together.
Yeah, yeah, I can show that quick too. I'm
Mm.
first going to I was just going to show this because it's in color and it's fun. So this is everything that Abbie went through, but it is with the gradient underneath. And this is just from the product images, but it's a great way to see. And then from what you said, this is also in a quick guide format with the
Yes.
brush names.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Um,
When I made these product images, I used a AI generator to make all those gemstones. It was super fun.
Ooh, that's incredible that you were able to do that through an AI generator.
It was called Wumbo, I think. Wumbo. They all have
Yeah,
weird
that that
names, and
that you
they
were
all
able to
have
get the
like a really
isolated.
distinct style. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did Adobe has this online thing where you can remove the background from things. So I just dragged them all from straight from the AI into that Adobe app and then just deleted the backgrounds.
as I look closely at this gem, I guess I can see that it's not actually like a cut
Yeah.
gemstone. But at first glance, you would never know. That's awesome. Let's see. Share screen. So, let me navigate to. Wow, that was a while ago. I named my stacks by month, and it's really warped my understanding of how time passes because I would have said I made this 3 weeks ago, and that
Yeah.
is just not true. Um, I think what I did here was I had already painted this piece and then I did it afterwards as an overlay, but sometimes I found I like to work the opposite way. So I put down the texture first and then paint underneath, somewhat based on what the texture looks like. You can kind of use your brush strokes, use the texture as a guide for your brush strokes in that case, but to use it just as an overlay.
What brush did you use to paint that wave? It's gorgeous.
Oh, I used the what's it called? The I used ones from my messmaker pack, the round smudgy brush.
I love those. Your
I
messmaker pack
love
is awesome.
Oh, thank you. I love using these with the frosting pack as well. I'll show you that too. But first, the texture. Um, okay, let's use meringue. Add my 2 layers, set my top one to overlay. Set second to smallest. That's maybe a little small. And then on my lower layer, set that to linear burn. And then to use liquify, you can use liquify in multiple layers. You just have to select them both. And then under,
And neither of them can be alpha locked. If
yes,
they're alpha locked, then the little pop up says, no, I don't like that.
yes, not alpha locked, and of course not regular locked either. And then you can use liquify to push the texture around, or I think with this one in particular, I did some twirling to experiment because they're kind of like twirled shapes. I think we want to twirl left for that though. And
That is really cool.
it's fun. It's so fun. You have to be careful not to let it get too distorted, but if it does, the liquify tool also has this reconstruct tool that puts it back to normal, but in a gradual liquefy way, so you still have some control. And yeah, I think I just, when I use it this way, I try to align the brush strokes of the overlay to the brush strokes of the painting and make it look compatible. Is that the word? Yeah. And then to create a, let's see, I'll hide this, make my background color light so you can see. The way that I like to use the Messmaker brushes is I will throw down a couple colors, kind of similar to when Abbie did her gradient, but instead of using blur and liquefy, use the smudge tool. And then you can mix them back and forth together. So maybe that's
I really like that. Those for smudging. I use it frequently for smudging. It's
kind of fun to like have a little less control, have it be a little more random. And so this maybe isn't the optimal texture for it. If I use, I kind of want something that has just like the diagonal brush strokes for this. So I feel like that was putty board, maybe? Yeah, this looks like a good one.
I originally made these because my friend I don't know what she's calling her business anymore, used to be the Atmospheria.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's called a modern medium. She makes those brushes that are styluses. Yes, the brush stylus, yes. She wanted a texture to put over a painting to make it look more like a three-dimensional paint marks. So that was originally why I started making these, and then I discovered I actually liked them anyway for other things.
Yeah. I love that just like a single question will spark a full brush set for you.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what I meant. You're like pulling it through. I feel like in, I promise I have a better demonstration for this. This is the background of the live thing. Make sure I hide everything. Okay, so here's a better, I should have just gotten this in the first place. Here's a better example of what I meant. So I think I actually ended up using the Goopy blender to do this. And then I just, pull the brush strokes back and forth so it looks like the two colors of frosting are actually mixing and you have like some of those bubbles and stuff too. So that's more of what I meant. I feel like I took us off the rails here.
No, I think that's awesome. Thank you.
But it's an amazing set. I hope that this sparked some ideas for you guys. I can't wait to see beautiful cookies trickling through, unicorn cookies. And we have a quick goat update, which was from a little while ago. So I'm pretty sure Goat Lady is gone, but tried to watch and listen while giving bottle babies bottles, 100 goats outside hollering to eat. We'll have to watch the tutorial later. That sounds very hectic. And if my cats are demanding, I can only imagine what 100 goats is like. But I love the goat saga.
I saw a video of somebody feeding goats with soda bottles, and they'd put teats on and they stacked them in this rack, and then the baby goats all ran up and attached themselves, and I thought, oh, that is so cute. But that's reckon amazing. If that's happening all the time, we'd have to make a lot of milk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, but baby goats are like the cutest creatures. They're just like, they're silly and they bounce. It sounds like fun. Well, I think we got all of the questions. I tried to catch them as we went. Definitely let us know in the comments if you have more questions, and we will get back to them as soon as we can. And the links for everything that we used are in the video description. That includes the brushes and the freebie brushes, the color palette, the font. Yeah, thank you, Abbie, for doing this amazing demonstration.
Yeah, and thank you for coming and watching, everyone. I so appreciate it.
Yes, and we will see you again for another live soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.